Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn English Podcast.
Letting Go of the Past. Learn English Podcast. I'm very excited to talk to you today because what I'm about to share with you is something that completely changed my life, and I believe it can change yours too. And this is the story of a young lady who, like many of us, struggled with holding on to the past, carrying memories, regrets, and fears that weighed her down every day. And she was a bright, ambitious young woman who loved learning English and dreamed of traveling the world. But every time she tried to move forward, she found herself thinking about mistakes she made, words she said that she wished she hadn't, friendships that ended, and opportunities that slipped through her fingers. And these thoughts often made her anxious, sad, and hesitant to take new steps in her life. But one day, while listening to an English podcast about personal growth and self-discovery, she realized something powerful, something that she knew she needed to embrace. That holding on to the past does not help us grow or improve, and in fact, it can block us from achieving the life we want. And she began to practice small exercises to let go of her past, like writing down her regrets on paper, and then imagining herself putting them into a balloon and watching it float away slowly, gently, completely leaving her behind. And she learned to forgive herself for mistakes, understanding that everyone makes errors, that those experiences are not failures but lessons. And as she practiced speaking in English about her feelings, journaling her experiences, and sharing stories with friends in her language classes, she discovered that the more she expressed her thoughts, the lighter she felt. And she started noticing that when she focused on the present, when she took each day as an opportunity to learn a new word, a new sentence, or a new way to express herself, she began to feel a sense of freedom and empowerment that she had never experienced before. And this process was not instant. It took patience, practice, and persistence. But she learned to celebrate small victories, like successfully finishing a conversation in English without hesitation, or writing a paragraph about her day without worrying about grammar mistakes. And these moments became reminders that growth is possible when we release the weight of our past. And she began to see her life as a series of opportunities to create new memories, to explore new ideas, and to connect with people in ways she had never imagined. And gradually, she noticed that the sadness that once lingered in her heart became less powerful, replaced by curiosity, courage, and hope. And as she continued learning English through podcasts, reading stories, listening to songs, and practicing with friends in her language classes, she discovered that the more she expressed her thoughts, the lighter she felt. And she started noticing that when she focused on the present, when she took each day as an opportunity to learn a new word, a new sentence, or a new way to express herself, she began to feel a sense of freedom and empowerment that she had never experienced before. And this process was not instant. It took patience, practice, and persistence. But she learned to celebrate small victories, like successfully finishing a conversation in English without hesitation, or writing a paragraph about her day without worrying about grammar mistakes. And these moments became reminders that growth is possible when we release the weight of our past. And she began to see her life as a series of opportunities to create new memories, to explore new ideas, and to connect with people in ways she had never imagined. And gradually, she noticed that the sadness that once lingered in her heart became less powerful, replaced by curiosity, courage, and hope. And as she continued learning English through podcasts, reading stories, listening to songs, and practicing with friends, she realized that letting go of the past does not mean forgetting it completely, but rather understanding it, accepting it, and choosing not to let it control her future. And this lesson extended beyond language learning into relationships, personal goals, and even daily habits, because she understood that every day is a fresh page where she can write her story. And by focusing on what she could do now rather than what she could not change before, she cultivated a mindset of growth, resilience, and positivity. In every challenge she faced, whether mastering a difficult English grammar rule, speaking confidently in front of a class, or overcoming personal doubts, became a stepping stone towards a stronger, happier, and more resilient version of herself. And she also learned to celebrate the small wins that others might overlook, like remembering a new word without a dictionary, greeting someone politely in English, or even understanding the lyrics of a song she loved. And each small accomplishment became a reminder that progress is not measured in leaps alone, but in the consistent daily steps she was taking to reclaim her confidence, her voice, and her freedom from the past. And ultimately, she realized that life is not about clinging to what we cannot change, but about creating the life we want through consistent action, positive thinking, and the courage to let go. And now, every time she looks back, she sees her past not as a chain, but as a teacher, not as a weight, but as wisdom. And this insight transformed her learning journey, her personal growth, and her perspective on life. And as she continued learning English and share her story, she hopes that every young learner listening today understands that the path to improvement, happiness, and self-confidence begins the moment we release the past, focus on the present, and commit to building the future we dream of. And so her story is not just about learning English. It's about learning life, learning to forgive oneself, learning to grow, learning to let go, and most importantly, learning that every single person has the power to write their own story, starting today. And in this way, her journey continues, inspiring thousands of others to pick up the pen, to speak their truth, to embrace mistakes as lessons, to take small steps every day, and to step into a world full of opportunities with courage, confidence, and hope. And the lessons she learned about letting go of the past are applicable to anyone, in any situation, at any stage of life, making her story a powerful example of how emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and language learning can combine to create a more fulfilled and meaningful life. And through persistence, patience, reflection, and action, she proves that it is possible to break free from the chains of past experiences, to live fully in the present, and to create a future that is aligned with our dreams, aspirations, and true potential. And this is why her story is so inspiring, because it shows that letting go is not about weakness, but about courage, growth, and the willingness to embrace change. And it demonstrates that learning a language is not just about memorizing words, but about expressing our deepest feelings, connecting with others, and discovering the best version of ourselves. And by sharing her experiences, struggles, and triumphs, she reminds us that we all have the strength within to release the past, pursue our dreams, and transform our lives one step at a time, one word at a time, and one moment at a time. And as she continued this journey, she added more tools to her routine, like creating a daily gratitude journal in English, practicing conversations with native speakers online, recording herself speaking about her day, noting areas for improvement, and celebrating successes. And through this method, she not only improved her language skills, but also strengthened her emotional resilience, realizing that the act of letting go and learning are deeply connected. And every time she revisited old memories, she did so with curiosity and reflection instead of regret, understanding that each experience shaped her, taught her lessons, and gave her the courage to take the next step. And this ongoing practice allowed her to help others, sharing simple tips like speaking about feelings daily, creating story based exercises, reading motivational stories in English, and engaging in reflective writing. And through these acts, she realized that her purpose extended beyond her personal growth, becoming a beacon for others who struggled with the same weight of the past. And as she continued this journey, the transformation was evident not only in her fluency, but also in her confidence, her mindset, her relationships, and her ability to face new challenges with grace and determination. And the more she shared, the more she learned that letting go is a skill that requires attention, patience, practice, and self compassion, and that language learning, storytelling, and personal growth are intertwined in a way that empowers individuals to reshape their lives, take control of their narratives, and create meaningful connections. And she understood that mistakes, failures, disappointments, and lost opportunities are not endings, but beginnings, guiding us towards better understanding, deeper empathy, stronger communication, and
a richer life experience. And with every step, she reaffirmed that progress is not measured by perfection, but by the courage to continue, to express oneself authentically, and to embrace the unfolding journey with an open heart and a willing mind. And through this lifelong commitment, she transformed her fear into motivation, her regret into insight, and her past into wisdom, proving that letting go is not forgetting, but reclaiming your power, your voice, and your future. And this story, shared through English podcasts, reflective journals, conversations with peers, and personal storytelling, becomes a living guide for anyone learning a language, seeking personal growth, or striving to overcome the shadows of their past. And it demonstrates vividly that change is possible, happiness is achievable, and language is a powerful tool not only for communication, but for healing, growth, and self expression. And she continued to weave English learning into every part of her life, narrating her daily experiences, reflecting on her emotions, practicing vocabulary in context, exploring grammar through stories, and celebrating the beauty of mistakes as stepping stones. And as she wrote, spoke, read, and listened, she realized that each word learned, each sentence formed, and each conversation completed was not only an achievement in language, but also a victory over fear, doubt, and the remnants of her past. And the more she shared her story with others, the more she understood that teaching, inspiring, and motivating others also reinforced her own growth, creating a continuous cycle of learning, letting go, and empowering. And she became a living example of how letting go of the past, embracing the present, and committing to lifelong learning can transform not only language skills, but also confidence, mindset, and life trajectory. And she wants everyone listening today to know that it is never too late to begin, to forgive oneself, to release old regrets, to speak, write, and express freely, to make mistakes and learn, to connect and share, and to continuously grow, and that each day presents a new opportunity to practice these principles, to strengthen English skills, to enhance personal growth, and to live more fully, courageously, and intentionally. And through her journey, she embodies the truth that letting go of the past is a gift we give ourselves, a practice that nurtures growth, happiness, and meaningful expression. And she encourages every young learner to take that first step today, to speak about feelings, write reflections, read stories, listen with curiosity, share experiences, and embrace the ongoing journey of life and language with patience, persistence, and hope. And by doing so, we can all transform our challenges into opportunities, our regrets into lessons, and our past into wisdom, just as she did, showing us that the power to shape our future, to improve our English, to grow emotionally, and to live intentionally rests within each of us, waiting to be unlocked through the courage to let go, the willingness to practice, and the dedication to pursue our dreams every single day. And this story, shared here today, is a testament to the strength, resilience, and potential that exists in every young learner, reminding us that while the past shapes us, it does not define us, that every word we learn is a step toward freedom, that every mistake we make is a lesson, and that every moment we live fully is a victory over yesterday's fears. And as she continues on this path, practicing English, sharing her story, and letting go of old burdens, she inspires countless others to embark on the same journey, proving that through courage, consistency, reflection, and action, we can all release the past, embrace the present, and create a future filled with confidence, growth, and endless possibilities. And she reminds us that the journey itself is the reward, that every moment of practice, every reflection, every conversation, every word spoken, and every story shared brings us closer to the life we dream of, and that letting go is not a single act, but a daily practice, a series of choices that define who we are, who we want to become, and how fully we can live. And she shows us that combining the power of language, the wisdom of experience, and the courage to grow creates a life of meaning, fulfillment, and joy. And that every day we wake up is an opportunity to practice, to learn, to forgive, to speak, to write, to reflect, and to grow. And by following this path, we too can let go of the past, live fully in the present, and create a future that is bright, empowered, and limitless, just as she has done. And she continues to wake up each morning with a renewed sense of purpose, practicing English, setting intentions, reflecting on her thoughts, engaging with others, and taking small, deliberate actions to ensure that each day counts. And she reminds herself and all of us listening that while the past will always be a part of us, it does not have to control our emotions, our decisions, or our dreams. And that through language, self-reflection, and consistent practice, we can transform our inner world, express ourselves more clearly,
connect more deeply with others, and step into the life we truly want. And this is the ultimate lesson that she shares today, that letting go, learning, growing, and speaking boldly are all interconnected, and that every young learner has the ability to rewrite their story, overcome their past, and embrace a future filled with limitless potential, confidence, and happiness. And that this is possible for anyone, anywhere, at any age, the moment we choose to act, to practice, to reflect, and to believe in our power to change, to grow, and to succeed, just as she has done.